From the 43rd floor, Chicago looked like a box of scattered jewels. Glass from 100 high-rises caught the late winter sun, bending it into long streaks across the river. Inside one of those towers, in a corner office lined with floor-to-ceiling windows, Claire Winters stood with her hand resting lightly on the cool pane. Her reflection stared back at her. Perfect bun, perfect makeup, the sharp line of her navy suit. Behind that reflection, the city moved on without her tiny cars sliding along Lakeshore Drive, a train rattling across a bridge. A voice crackled through the speaker on her desk. "Claire, your car's downstairs," her assistant said. "PR is already at Aurelia. They want 10 minutes before anyone sees you." "Fine," Claire replied. Her own voice sounded distant in the room, swallowed by the hush of carpet and glass. She turned away from the window, grabbed her phone, and clutched from the desk, then paused when she saw the framed photo lying face down on the corner. Someone had dusted. Claire hesitated, then picked it up. The picture was 3 years old. Noah at 4 cheeks, still round, clinging to her leg outside a hospital wing. She was in scrubs, hair, limp eyes, exhausted, but she was smiling in the photo, one hand resting on his head. Her thumb brushed the glass over his face. For a brief second she wondered when she had last held him like that. The question landed and refused to move. "Claire," the assistant called again a little louder through the speaker, "we are on a schedule." She set the frame down face up and left without answering. The elevator ride was silent except for the soft hum of cables and the faint echo of her own breathing. On the ground floor, the revolving doors released a burst of hot, conditioned air that disappeared as soon as she stepped outside into the sting of Chicago wind. The town car waited at the curb, black paint shining windows, tinted dark. A man in a gray suit opened the rear door with a little bow of his head. "Good evening, Ms. Winters." Claire slid inside, the smell of leather and faint cologne wrapping around her. Her eyes went first to the boy in the far corner of the back seat. "Noah," she said. He looked up from the tablet resting on his knees. 7 years old now, bigger, taller hair and the same sandy color as hers, but his posture was small, shoulders tucked, as if he was always trying to take up less space. "Hi, Mom," he said. His voice was quiet, like he was afraid of interrupting. He had on the navy button-down shirt. The stylist had chosen the collar a little too stiff for his thin neck. The top button was open, like someone had tried to fuss with it and given up. Claire studied him for a second longer than usual. "You look nice," she said. He blinked, as if surprised, then dropped his eyes. "Thanks." The driver pulled away from the curb. The city slid past outside neon signs and traffic lights smearing across the glass. The PR manager turned in the front seat, twisting halfway toward them. Her name was Lila Hare, pulled into a long braid tablet balanced on her lap. "Okay," Lila began. "Ground rules. Aurelia has cleared the private room. Press will be in the main dining area only. We'll have 2 discreet photographers, not paparazzi level. We want warmth tonight, Claire. Softness. You as a single mom, not just Winters Global." Claire's jaw tensed. "I know what we want," she said. "Right," Lila replied. "Just fewer talking points, more moments. If Noah smiles at you, maybe look back at him. Let them catch it." Noah pressed himself against the seat, pretending not to listen. Claire glanced at him. A question rose to her lips, something simple and awkward, like, "How was your day?" But the car hit a pothole and the moment bounced away. She looked down at her phone instead. Messages stacked up the screen. "Victor updated numbers for tomorrow. Board wants an 8 a.m. call. Legal draft language for the new clause review attached." Renee Aurelia confirmed. "Press already gathering outside. You are trending for the right reasons. Let's keep it that way." Her thumb hovered over Victor's name. She thought of the clause they were revisiting, the one about mental and physical fitness for leadership. It had been Victor's idea to tighten it. For shareholder confidence, he had said. Her reflection in the glass window of the car looked back at her. The city blurred behind it. She clicked the screen off. Noah's tablet glowed in the dim interior. He was not playing a game. He was tracing patterns with his finger in the drawing app, little circles repeating along an invisible grid. "You ready for a fancy dinner?" she asked him. He shrugged, eyes still on the screen. "Do I have to talk to anybody?" he asked. "Just to me," she said. "And maybe a couple of nice people." Noah nodded, the movement small. "When is it over?" he asked. "We will not stay long," she replied. He swallowed and went back to his drawing finger, moving in careful looping lines. Across the city, in a very different kind of building, another father and child were getting ready too. In a narrow kitchen on the second floor of a brick walk-up, steam fogged the small window over the sink. A pot of water boiled hard on the stove, the lid rattling. "Careful, that sounds like it is about to escape," Marcus Reed said. He stood barefoot in a faded t-shirt and work pants, sleeves pushed up over forearms marked with old pale scars. The smell of tomato sauce clung to the air, rich and tangy. At the scratched wooden table, his daughter Emma sat with her legs swinging. Her sneakers did not quite touch the floor. A thick sheet of paper lay in front of her, creased from being carried in a backpack all day. Every subject box on the report card held the same capital letter, A. Marcus plucked the paper from the table again, even though he had already read it 3 times. All A's, he said, like he still needed to prove it was real. Emma grinned, teeth slightly crooked hair, pulled into 2 messy braids that never stayed even. You already said that, she told him. I'm saying it again, he replied. This is repeat-worthy. He smoothed the report card and walked to the fridge. The door was dented handles wrapped with duct tape. He reached for the little red magnet shaped like a heart, the paint chipped at the edges. With a small snap, he pinned the report card to the fridge right above last year's drawing of a stick figure man in a blue uniform holding a little girl. Emma watched him, her smile softening into something quieter. Does this earn at least real restaurant pasta? She asked. He glanced back at her. Real restaurant pasta, he said. Not my world-famous, almost Italian noodles. She scrunched up her nose. Your noodles are good, but they squeak. They do not squeak, Marcus protested. When you chew, they squeak, she insisted, trying not to laugh. He pretended to be offended, then let out a breath, some of the day's weight leaving his shoulders. All right, he said. For this kind of report card, I guess you're right. You just earned the fancy noodles. Her eyes widened. Like actual fancy, she asked, with chandeliers and napkins and stuff? We are not talking crystal chandeliers, he said, but there is that Italian place by the river, the one we pass when I take the long route. I heard they do decent pasta, white tablecloth, cloth napkins, not the scratchy paper ones. Emma slid off the chair and crossed the small kitchen to him. She wrapped her arms around his waist. Best, Dad? She said into his shirt. His hands, rough and warm, rested on her back for a moment. He closed his eyes, letting the hug sink into him. Go find something nice to wear, he said. Not the unicorn shirt with the stain. Something that looks like you meant to be fancy. Emma pulled back, eyes bright, and dashed toward the bedroom they shared, feet thudding along the hallway. Marcus turned back to the stove, turned off the burner under the boiling water. No need to cook at home now. He wiped his hands on a towel and stared at the report card shining under the fridge light. His own reflection wavered on the stainless steel, blurred by fingerprints. In a tower across the river, Claire watched traffic from behind glass. In a walk-up 2 bus lines away, Marcus watched pasta water calm down in a dented pot. 2 parents in 2 different worlds, both reaching for their keys. Claire's driver merged toward the river, toward Aurelia, where gold chandeliers hung over polished tables. Marcus grabbed his coat from the hook by the door, patted his back pocket to make sure his wallet was really there, and smiled to himself. All right, kid, he called out. Let's go earn those fancy noodles. By the time Claire's car turned onto the riverfront, the sky had slipped fully into evening. Streetlights blinked on in a soft chain following the curve of the water. Aurelia rose ahead of them, all glass and soft gold, its facade reflecting the ripples below, like a second river made of light. People were already clustering outside the entrance. Men in dark suits, women in dresses that glimmered when they moved. A photographer lifted his camera as the town car pulled up, the flash stuttering against the tinted windows. Inside, Noah's shoulders climbed a little closer to his ears. The driver stepped out and opened Claire's door. Cold air slid into the car, carrying the faint scent of the river, and car exhaust mixed with expensive perfume from the waiting crowd. Lila turned in her seat. Remember, she said quietly, just walk in. No speeches. Let them get a few photos of you with Noah. That is all. Claire nodded once. She stepped out first, the heel of her shoe clicking against the stone. For an instant, the flashes found her a quick flurry of light, then settled, sensing the shortness of the moment. Noah hesitated. The driver bent down. Big step, bud, he said. I have you if you need it. Noah slid to the edge of the seat, eyes darting to the crowd. Their faces were mostly turned toward the entrance, but a few lenses shifted, searching. Claire extended her hand toward him. It hovered there, a precise distance from the door. Noah looked at it, then took it. His small fingers curled around hers, slightly cold, a little damp. She felt how tight he squeezed, how his grip did not loosen after the first step. They walked together under the soft awning. Aurelia's name glowed above them in delicate letters. Inside, the restaurant opened up in a sweep of light and sound. Marble floors, soft jazz from hidden speakers, the distant clink of plates. Chandeliers hovered over the main dining room, their warm bulbs making tiny stars in every wine glass. To the right, glass walls framed the river black and silver. To the left, velvet curtains marked the entry to the private rooms. A host in a dark vest appeared instantly, his smile polished. "Ms. Winters," he said, "welcome back. Your private room is ready. We can escort you there now to avoid the main crowd." Lila was already nodding. Claire's eyes moved past the host over the sea of tables almost out of habit. Reserved signs, candlelight, the hum of conversation rising and dipping like breathing. For a moment it was all blur. Then one table near the back corner caught her attention. No white tablecloth. Just a small square table near a structural column partially shielded from the center of the room. On one side sat a girl in a simple blue dress, cotton rather than silk. Brown hair and two braids slightly uneven swung as she laughed. On the other side sat Marcus. He had traded his work shirt for a clean button-down. The collar was a little frayed, and the cuffs were rolled once, revealing the same pale scars on his forearms. A plain watch-scratched face, no tie. In front of them, a plate of pasta glistened under the light steam curling upward. Marcus was cutting the noodles into smaller pieces with a fork and spoon, patient, efficient. The girl Emma watched him with absolute trust, hands resting on the edge of her plate, waiting. He lifted a portion onto her fork, balanced it carefully, then passed it to her. "Try that," he said, lips curved. She took it, bit down, and her face lit up. "Oh, wow," she said around the mouthful. "This is like your noodles, but not squeaky." Marcus laughed at a small, uncontained sound that traveled all the way across the dining room. Noah stopped. He had been moving forward in the rhythm of his mother's stride, eyes on the floor counting tiles in his head. Now he stood still. Claire felt the tug before she realized why. His hand tightened around hers, then pulled back just a fraction. "Noah," she murmured. He was not looking at her. His gaze was fixed across the room, past the host, past the cluster of tables, dressed in linen and glass, to the corner where Emma and Marcus sat. His breathing changed, not faster, not panicked, sharper, more awake. The host followed Claire's line of sight and frowned almost imperceptibly. "We can take you through the side corridor," he said quickly. "Your room has a river view, no need to linger in the main dining space." Noah spoke almost under his breath. "That is the place?" he asked. Claire glanced down. "What place?" He blinked, eyes still locked on the corner table. "The place with the not squeaky noodles," he said, "right?" She realized he must recognize Marcus. Even without the uniform shirt, the shape of the man was the same. The slant of his shoulders, the way he leaned in when the girl spoke. Noah swallowed a throat working. "Mom," he whispered, "I want to sit near them." The words were so soft that only she could hear them over the murmur of the room. Claire's first instinct was to correct him, to say that this was not their table, that they had a plan, that people were waiting. Her schedule had carved out exactly 90 minutes for this dinner, then hours more work when she got home. "We are not assigned to that section," the host added smoothly, as if he could read her mind. "Those seats are for regular reservations. You have a private area." Noah tugged again, this time a little more. "I want to sit near them," he said, again a shade louder. His eyes did not move from the small corner table where Emma was wiping sauce off her chin with the back of her hand and giggling. The giggle reached him even through the distance and clatter. It was unpolished, careless, as if the girl had forgotten anyone could see her. Noah shifted closer to his mother, using her as a shield from the rest of the room, but his attention stayed fixed on that spot. Lila leaned in, voice low. "We cannot put you in the main room," she said to Claire. "Not tonight. The press is here. You will be mobbed. The private space is controlled. The lighting is perfect and everyone is already set up there." The host nodded eagerly. "Exactly. Very curated, very calm." Noah's fingers curled deeper into the fabric of Claire's sleeve. "They look less crowded," he said. "Less people watching." Claire looked again. From where she stood, the corner table existed slightly out of the main flow of foot traffic. Servers passed it, but no one paused nearby. The nearest diners were focused on their own meals. Marcus and Emma seemed to inhabit a small pocket of quiet inside the bright room. Noah's shoulders had dropped a fraction when he saw them. His knuckles were still pale where he held on to her, but there was something else in his posture now, something like wanting rather than bracing. The host shifted his weight uneasy. "I can ask them to move," he offered, keeping his tone light. "We can clear that corner, set it aside for your security team and your guests." Claire's eyes flicked to his face. For a brief second she saw the calculation there. He did not see Marcus and his daughter as guests. He saw them as clutter. Her jaw tightened. "No," she said. The host blinked. "No," he repeated. "No," she said again. "You will not ask them to move." Lila touched her wrist. Claire, she began, the board is going to see these photos. We need consistency. If you sit out here, you are exposed on all sides. Anyone with a phone can get to you. The private room prevents that. Claire listened, but her gaze had settled on the small plate between Marcus and Emma. His hand moved easily, the fork turning through the noodles. His fingers were thick, a little rough, but precise. Every motion signaled familiarity with this simple task. She thought of the photo on her desk, Noah holding her leg outside the hospital, her hand on his head, and not a single email between them. Her phone buzzed in her clutch, a vibration against leather. Victor, all set for tomorrow. Do not give them anything to use. Do not give them anything to use. She had lived her entire adult life by some version of those words. Noah's hand on her sleeve shook slightly. I do not like the rooms with cameras, he whispered. His eyes did not plead. He almost never begged. He just stated it like a fact voice, flat with the effort of keeping it steady. The host waited, pen hovering over a leather-bound notebook where he held the night's assignments. Lila watched Claire's face with sharp professional focus. Claire drew in a breath, slow. My son feels safer there, she said quietly, nodding toward the corner. The host hesitated. But Ms. Winters, that section is not usually. My son feels safer there, she repeated, voice no longer soft. That makes it the right section. Lila opened her mouth, then closed it. The PR script she had built in her head for this evening did not have a line for this moment. Claire shifted her clutch to her free hand and looked directly at the host. We will sit at that table, she said, or at an empty one beside it if there is room. You can adjust the rest. The host's polished smile faltered, then reappeared thinner. Of course, he said, as you wish. He led them through the maze of tables. Conversations dimmed slightly as they passed, curiosity pricking the air. A few phones lifted discreetly, the blue eyes of their lenses tracking Claire. Noah kept close to her side, eyes forward, now focused on the corner where Emma and Marcus sat. As they approached, Emma looked up mid-bite. Her fork paused in the air. Marcus followed her gaze. His eyes met Claire's across the last few feet of polished floor, surprise flickering there. Then something like concern under it, remembering the way her hands had shook around the glass of sugared water not so long ago. Noah's grip on her sleeve loosened just enough that he could lift his other hand and brush down the front of his shirt as if smoothing invisible wrinkles. The host stopped at the table and cleared his throat. Mr. Reed, he said, reading the name from his list as if it were new and uncertain in his mouth. Would you mind if we joined you here? Marcus glanced from the host to Claire, then to Noah. Emma's face brightened. Hi, she said to Noah. You made it to the fancy noodle place, too. For a heartbeat, no one at the little corner table moved. Emma still held her fork halfway to her mouth. A noodle slid back onto the plate. Her eyes flicked between Noah and Claire, wide and curious, not nervous at all. Marcus pushed his chair back a little. The legs scraped softly against the floor. His hand found the back of Emma's chair in a protective habit he did not seem aware of. I am sorry, he said to the host, then to Claire. If this is our mistake, we can move. We were told to sit here, but honestly, I think there was some confusion with the place next door. He tried to make it a joke. It came out thin. Claire shook her head once. There is no mistake, she said. My son would like to sit near your table. Noah's cheeks colored at the word my son, but he did not look away from Emma. Marcus glanced at the boy, then at Claire. Something in his posture shifted, the stiffness in his shoulders easing a little. Oh, he said. Well, in that case, you are welcome to join us if you are sure. Emma lowered her fork and wiped her hand quickly on the napkin, like she was preparing to meet someone important. Hi, she said to Noah again. I am Emma. I got all A's, so I earned pasta. Noah blinked. I am Noah, he replied. I got all A's too, but I just got a shirt. Claire looked down at him, surprised. She had not known about the shirt being a reward. She had left that to the stylist. Emma tilted her head. Shirts are fine, she said, considering. Pasta is better. The smallest smile tugged at the corner of Noah's mouth. The host cleared his throat, pulling out a chair for Claire and gesturing to the one beside Emma. If this arrangement is acceptable, he said, we can set a second place for Ms. Winters and her son. I will have another server reassigned. He sounded like he was talking about rearranging centerpieces. Claire took the offered chair across from Marcus and set her clutch carefully on the corner of the table. Noah slipped into the chair beside Emma, rather than the one beside her, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. As he sat, his knee bumped the leg of the table. The glasses wobbled. The host flinched. Easy, Marcus said quietly. Tables here are fancier than they look. They scare easy. Noah gave a small, nervous laugh and folded his hands tightly in his lap. The host retreated, leaving a thin trail of expensive cologne behind. For a moment, the four of them sat in a small, fragile silence. Nearby, the other diners did their best not to stare too openly. Forks resumed moving. Conversation rose again, although every now and then someone's gaze slid toward their corner. A different server approached. He was young, with slicked-back hair and a watch that did not match the level of the restaurant. His name tag read Eric. He looked at Claire first. "Good evening," he said. "Welcome to Aurelia. Can I bring you anything to start, Ms. Winters?" His tone had that extra warmth reserved for high-tipping regulars. "Water for now," Claire said. "Flat for me." She glanced at Noah. "What would you like?" she asked. He glanced at Emma's glass. "The same as her," he said. "Sparkling with lemon," Emma announced. "Sparkling with lemon," Noah echoed. The server wrote it down, then let his gaze slide to Marcus. The temperature in his expression cooled. "And for you, sir?" he asked. Marcus did not seem to notice the shift. "Tap is fine, thanks," he said. "We are good with the kids' menus. Whatever pasta she has is already blowing her mind." Emma lifted her fork in agreement, noodles dangling. "It is really good," she confirmed. Eric's eyes flicked down to Marcus's rolled cuffs, the watch the faint shine on shoes that had clearly been polished by hand. "We do not have a separate kids' menu at Aurelia," he said. "The entree your daughter is enjoying is the house special. It is one of our more premium dishes." He said premium like it was a test. Marcus paused, the corners of his smile tightening. "I see," he said. "The price is marked clearly on the menu," Eric continued as if Marcus had not spoken. "I just want to make sure there is no confusion. Some guests from the cafe next door occasionally wander in and assume the pricing is similar." He did not look at Claire when he said, "some guests." He did not need to. Marcus's ears reddened. His jaw worked once, then set. "We are fine," he said. "I can read." Claire watched the exchange without blinking. The muscles in her forearm tightened, where her hand rested on the table. "I think we will have 2 more of those premium dishes," she said. Eric straightened. 2 more, he repeated. "Yes," Claire said. "Whatever the children are having, and you can put this entire table on my account." Eric's attention snapped fully to her, now the calculation plain in his eyes. "Of course, Ms. Winters," he said smoothly. "Right away." He gathered the unused menus from in front of Marcus and left steps a touch quicker than usual. Marcus let out a breath he had been holding. "You did not have to do that," he said. "I am aware," Claire replied. She did not elaborate. Emma swung her feet under the table heels, thumping lightly against the chair leg. "What does premium mean?" she asked. "It means fancy," Marcus answered. She grinned. "Then I am eating very fancy noodles," she declared. Noah watched her, then looked at his own empty place setting. His water arrived, first bubbles popping against the thin lemon slice. He picked up the glass carefully, both hands around it. Emma tapped his arm with her elbow. "You can relax," she told him. "They have napkins and everything." "I do not usually eat in places like this," he said. "Me neither," she replied. "My dad says we are borrowing this experience." "No," Marcus said across the table, but there was no bite in it. "I said the reservation probably belonged to someone else, and we borrowed their luck." "That is what I said," Emma answered. "Borrowing." She turned back to Noah. "What do you usually eat?" she asked. "On celebration days." He thought about it. "Sometimes my mom's chef makes chocolate lava cake," he said. Emma's eyes went round. "You have your own chef?" she asked. "She has her own everything," Marcus murmured under his breath. Claire heard it. There was no accusation in his tone, just recognition of a different reality. Noah nodded, hesitant. "Yes," he said. "Her name is Anna. She makes good soup." "Do you help?" Emma asked. He frowned. "Help with what?" "Stirring. Tasting," she said. "You have to taste while you cook. That is a rule." Noah shook his head slowly. "I do not cook," he said. Emma opened her mouth to respond, then stopped as their plates arrived. Steam rose in a fragrant cloud scented with garlic and basil. The pasta was glossy with olive oil, dotted with bright pieces of tomato and shavings of cheese that melted as they watched. Eric set one plate in front of Noah, one in front of Claire, murmured something polite, and retreated. Noah stared at the tangle of noodles. The fork rested beside it, polished and heavy. Across from him, Emma had already cut a small portion for herself with clumsy enthusiasm and was blowing on it. Marcus picked up his own fork and knife again, reaching for Emma's plate. His movements were slow enough that anyone watching could follow. "Small bites," he reminded her. "Remember what happened last time?" She made a face. "That was one time," she protested. "One time is enough," he said. Noah watched his hands, the way his fingers held the utensils steady, the way he readjusted the knife angle without thinking. There were small scars on his knuckles, white against the tan. Marcus glanced up and caught Noah's eyes. "You okay over there?" he asked. Noah's gaze dropped instantly to his own plate. I do not know how to do that, he said. Do what? Marcus asked. He lifted the fork a little. Make it smaller, Noah said. Claire's sister shifted in her chair. Noah, she said, you can ask me. Seymour. He looked at her, then back at Marcus. His tongue darted out to wet his lower lip. Can you? He began, then stopped. His fingers tightened on the handle of the fork until his knuckles blanched. Emma leaned forward. Just say it, she whispered. He likes helping. Noah took a breath. Can you cut mine too? He asked Marcus. The words hung in the space between them. Claire felt them as clearly as if they had been a hand on her shoulder. Marcus froze for a second, not because the request was unusual, but because of the way Noah had asked, like he was stepping onto ice he was not sure would hold. Sure, Marcus said gently. No problem. He reached across, turning the plate slightly toward him. His fingers brushed the edge of the porcelain, and for a moment his hand was so close to Noah's that the boy could have touched it if he wanted. Noah did not pull away. Marcus cut the pasta into shorter strands, working quietly, his attention focused. This better? He asked when he was done. Noah nodded. Thank you, he said. You are welcome, Marcus replied. Claire watched her son lift a forkful of pasta to his mouth, the motion a little clumsy but determined. She tried to remember the last time he had asked anyone for something so small, so ordinary. In the center of the restaurant, a table of older diners laughed loudly. Glasses clinked. One woman wrapped in a silk wrap turned her head just enough to see into their corner. Evelyn Hart recognized Claire first, her brows arched, lips curving in a slow, sharp smile. She took in the scene. The powerful CEO in a corner, with a man whose shirt did not match the price of the wine list, and two children eating pasta with the delighted abandon of people unused to having so many forks. Well, Evelyn murmured to the man beside her, loud enough for the sound to carry easily across the soft music. It seems Winters Global is branching out in interesting directions tonight. Marcus went still, fork halfway to his mouth. Emma kept eating, oblivious. Noah's shoulders drew up closer to his ears again, though he did not stop chewing. Claire turned her head, eyes finding Evelyn's across the distance. For a beat, neither woman looked away. Claire held Evelyn's gaze across the room. Evelyn lifted her glass in a small mocking toast. To anyone watching, it might have looked like a casual acknowledgement between two members of the same rarefied circle. Only Evelyn's eyes betrayed the enjoyment she took in the moment, sharp and assessing. She leaned toward her companion, an older man in a dark suit, and spoke just loudly enough that the words skimmed over the music and floated toward the corner. I always assumed Winters dined with board members and senators, she said, not repairmen and their children. I must have missed the memo about the new brand strategy. The man chuckled an indulgent sound. Community engagement, he replied. Very fashionable now. Evelyn smiled, the corners of her mouth not touching her eyes. Yes, she said. Nothing says stability to shareholders like watching your CEO slum it in the cheap seats with the help. Marcus's hand paused over his water glass. His fingers tightened around the stem. His gaze fixed on the condensation sliding down the side as if the tiny rivulets were the most interesting thing in the world. Emma looked up at him. Dad, she asked quietly. He forced his shoulders to ease the tension sliding down his spine. It is fine, he said. Eat your pasta. The words were meant to be light. They landed heavy. Noah had heard every syllable. He did not understand all the financial implications, but he understood tone. He understood when someone was laughing at someone else. His stomach twisted, the mouthful of pasta suddenly thick. He risked a glance at Claire. Her face was unreadable. Years of boardroom discipline had carved that expression into something close to art. Chin steady, eyes cool. Only someone staring closely would have noticed the tiny pulse at the base of her throat beating faster than before. Evelyn was not done. She turned slightly in her seat, so her profile angled toward the corner, the better to project her voice. I suppose it makes sense, she said, eyes roaming lazily over Marcus's rolled cuffs. First you outsource manufacturing, then customer service, now dining partners. If there is a cheaper option than a country club, why not a janitor? The word janitor slid across the room like something sticky. Marcus's jaw clenched, his ears burned. He did not look up. He had heard worse in hallways and loading docks and quick asides outside elevator doors. It did not usually come dressed in silk and diamonds. He reached for his fork again. We are fine, he said to no one in particular. We just finished dinner. Emma's chair scraped as she pushed back from the table. She stood up on the seat in one quick movement, her sneakers on the upholstered cushion, hands planted on her hips. The chandelier light caught the smudge of sauce on her chin and the fierce set of her jaw. "Hey," she called out. Her voice cut through the gentle clatter of cutlery more cleanly than any bell. Several heads turned. The jazz from the hidden speakers carried on an odd contrast to the small girl now towering over her plate. Evelyn looked over, brows lifting at the sight of Emma standing. "Sit down, sweetheart," Evelyn's companion said with mild annoyance. "You will fall." Emma did not move. "My dad is not a janitor," she said. Her words were clear, each one spaced out with care. "He fixes things when other people are asleep. He keeps whole buildings warm in winter so families do not freeze." Marcus reached for her wrist. "Emma," he muttered. "Sit, please." She shook him off gently. "He climbs into basements that smell horrible and works on pipes until his hands hurt," she continued. "He fixes elevators at midnight so people can get to their homes. He fixed our heater at 3 in the morning so I would not be cold at school the next day." Her voice wobbled on the last sentence, but she kept going. "So do not call him that like it is something bad," she said. "You do not even know him." A quiet had spread in their immediate circle, the kind that comes when a room witnesses something it did not expect. Evelyn blinked slowly, taken aback by the directness, if not the content. "Children," she said airily, "so dramatic." Before she could turn away, another chair shifted. Noah stood up. He did not climb onto his seat. He simply rose small as he was and lifted his chin. His heart pounded against his ribs. His palms were damp where they pressed against the edge of the table, but he did not sit back down. "She is right," he said, voice thinner than Emma's, but clear enough to reach. Evelyn's eyes narrowed, recognizing him fully now. "You should be in a private room, Noah," she said, tone turning vaguely indulgent. "Your mother knows better than to let you sit out in the draft." He swallowed. "Mr. Reed smiles more than anyone who works for us," Noah said. "He smiles when he drives the trucks. He smiled when he fixed the light in the loading dock. He does not look at me like I am in the way." Claire's breath caught. She had not known that Noah had noticed Marcus in the building. She had not known that he remembered. Noah's hands trembled on the table. "He is better than all the drivers we have." He added a little rush at the end. "He talks to people. He is not less than you." The silence deepened. Marcus stared at Noah, something raw and unguarded flickering across his features. Evelyn's painted lips curled. "What a charming testimonial," she said. "Two small spokespeople for the working class. Very heartwarming." Her gaze slid to Claire, assessing again. "Careful, Claire," she said. "You spend enough time down here, and people might forget which floor you belong on." Claire's eyes cooled. "Which floor is that, Evelyn?" she asked. "The one with the shareholders who call children dramatic for speaking the truth." The murmurs around them climbed a notch. Lila appeared near the edge of the scene, eyes wide, hands half lifted in a silent, "Please do not start a war in this restaurant" gesture. A man in a dark suit with an earpiece, part of Claire's security detail, hovered in the background, visibly uncomfortable with the growing attention, but unsure where to intervene. The chandelier above the main dining space threw warm light on polished glasses and expensive plates. The clink and murmur felt thinner now, stretched over a tension that had found its way into the air like smoke. Claire felt all of it, the eyes, the whispers, the quick calculations behind every look. Her phone vibrated in her clutch again. The movement against her thigh brought a sharp awareness of everything waiting beyond this room. She reached for it out of reflex. The screen lit her face with a small, cold glow. Renee Victor moved the board meeting to tonight. Emergency. He is calling it a fitness review. He knows about the hospital. This is serious. Her chest tightened. Another message arrived before she could respond. "Renee, also someone is leaking. There is talk about footage. Are you okay?" The words blurred. Claire's pulse jumped, beating against her skin in a frantic rhythm. Her ears filled with the sound of her own blood rushing. The room's warmth felt suddenly suffocating. She set the phone down with more force than she meant to. The glass of water near her hand wobbled, a thin line of liquid sloshing over the rim. "Claire," Lila said softly from behind her, "is everything all right?" Noah sat down slowly, his sudden burst of bravery ebbing into an aftertaste of dread. Emma stayed standing a second longer, then sank back into her seat as Marcus's hand brushed her elbow. Claire took a breath, trying to steady it. It came in too fast. Her vision sharpened around the edges, then narrowed. The chandelier lights seemed too bright, each bulb a small sun drilling into her eyes. The soft murmur of the restaurant swelled into a single indistinct roar. She reached for her glass and misjudged the distance. Her fingertips knocked it sideways. It tipped water, spilling across the white cloth, clear and uncontrolled. "Mom?" Noah's voice cut through the noise. He sounded smaller than he had a moment ago when he had been speaking across the dining room. Claire tried to turn toward him. Her hand found the table searching for anchor. The wood felt slick under her palm. The muscles in her forearm trembled. A drop of sweat slid from her temple along her cheekbone. Her heart pounded harder as if trying to break through her ribs. She knew this sensation, the hollow in her stomach, the shakiness in her knees, the way the room seemed to tilt slightly under her feet. Not now. Not here. The thought was sharp and helpless at the same time. "Claire," Lila said again, voice closer now, thread of panic woven in. "You look pale. Maybe we should move you." Noah stood up again. His chair tipped backward a little, the legs scraping. "Mom," he repeated louder, "you are shaking." He was right. Her hands shook visibly now. She pressed them flat against the tablecloth, as if she could iron out the tremor with pressure. Her breath came quicker shallow, catching high in her chest. Across the table, Marcus watched her, with a different kind of focus. The color had drained from her face. A fine sheen of sweat had appeared along her hairline. Her pupils seemed slightly dilated in the too bright light. He recognized it, not as gossip, not as weakness to be exploited, as a pattern he had seen too many times in heat-soaked tents and makeshift triage units. He pushed his chair back slowly. "Ms. Winters," he said, keeping his tone even, "when is the last time you ate before this?" She tried to answer. The word caught in her throat and dissolved. The edge of the table pressed hard against her ribs. Her knees buckled. Everything that had been too bright went dim at the edges, a gray fog creeping in from the corners of her vision. Someone gasped. Claire's hand slid off the table, her balance tipped with it. The chandelier above her swung slightly, as if the whole ceiling had exhaled. Light scattered across the crystal droplets and shattered into strange shapes on the wall. She felt herself falling. The floor never arrived. Arms did. Marcus moved faster than anyone else at the table. His chair toppled behind him with a dull thud as he stepped around it. He caught her under the shoulders before her head could hit the edge of the table or the marble floor, the impact transferring into his own body. Her weight sagged into him, sudden and boneless. A fork clattered to the ground. Noah's cry ripped out of him raw and high. "Mom?" Conversations around them died mid-sentence. For a heartbeat, the restaurant was silent. Then the whisper started spreading in concentric circles. "Is that Claire Winters? She is fainting. Is someone filming this?" The answer was yes. Phones appeared in hands as if conjured. Screens lit up in the dim little blue windows angled at the scene in the corner, fingers already swiping to record. Marcus did not look at the phones. He lowered Claire into the nearest empty chair, easing her back so her head did not loll too far to one side. Her skin was clammy under his hands, the tendons at her neck standing out with each rapid heartbeat. "Give me some room," he said. The words were not loud, but there was a tone in them that made people step back. Lila hovered near his shoulder, fingers pressed to her mouth. "Should I call an ambulance?" she asked. "Not yet," he said. "Water, sugar, now." A busboy stood frozen a few feet away, clutching a tray stacked with empty glasses. "You," Marcus called to him. "Is there a coffee station nearby?" The young man nodded jerkily. "Get me packets of sugar, as many as you can grab," Marcus said, "and a clean glass with cold water." The busboy darted off, grateful for something to do. Marcus turned back to Claire. "Ms. Winters," he said, keeping his tone level. "Claire, can you hear me?" Her eyelids fluttered. The chandelier light painted brightness across her face. Her lips had lost their color. Her breathing came in quick, shallow bursts. Noah stood at her side, fingers digging into the back of her chair. He looked too small, too fragile in his stiff shirt. "Mom," he whispered, "wake up, please." His voice cracked on the last word. Marcus put a steady hand on the boy's shoulder. "She is still here," he said quietly. "Stay right next to her." The busboy returned with a glass water sloshing dangerously near the rim and a fistful of white sugar packets crinkling in his other hand. Marcus took them, tore 2 packets open with quick, practiced motions, and dumped them into the water. He swirled the glass until the grains dissolved. "Claire," he said again, "I need you to sip this." He slid one arm behind her shoulders, lifting her slightly. Her head lolled toward his chest, a strand of hair falling from the tight twist at the back of her head. Her eyes opened a fraction. The ceiling lights blurred and refocused in her line of vision. The sound in the room was softer somehow, as if she were hearing it through cotton. Marcus tilted the glass to her lips. "This will help," he said, small sips. She swallowed once, then again. The sweetness hit her tongue, cutting through the metallic taste that had crept into her mouth. Her heart still hammered, but the wild edge began to dull just slightly. Lila crouched on the other side of the chair. "It is all right," she murmured more to herself than anyone else. "You are okay, Claire. You just need a minute." A manager in a dark suit appeared at Marcus's elbow. "Sir, we have a private lounge in the back," the man said. His voice trembled at the edges. "We can move Ms. Winters there, away from the cameras." Marcus gave a sharp nod. "Good," he said. "Clear a path and keep it clear. No one touches her except me and her security." He glanced up at the guard with the earpiece. "You," Marcus said, "take the kids and stay with us." The guard looked surprised at being given orders by a man in rolled cuffs, then gave a short nod. Emma had slipped off her chair and was standing next to Noah, eyes wide and wet. "I am not leaving," Noah said. "You are not," Marcus answered. "You are coming with us." He shifted his grip, one arm still behind Claire's back, the other under her knees. She was not a large woman, but the limpness of her body made her feel heavier. He lifted her carefully. Her head fell against his shoulder cheek, resting over the line of old scars on his arm. Her perfume mixed with the sharper sense of sweat and panic. The dining room parted around them. Phones followed their progress like a trail of small moon screens, recording with that blank, unblinking gaze. Noah walked close to Marcus's side, one hand hovering near his mother's arm, as if he could catch her if she slipped. Emma walked on the other side, smaller, but just as intent. The manager led them behind a half-closed door and down a short hallway. The noise of the dining room faded with each step replaced by the hum of the air conditioning and the distant clink of dishes from the kitchen. They entered a lounge area lined with dark wood and low leather couches. Lamps cast pools of warm light instead of the sharp glare of chandeliers. The windows here faced a quieter part of the river, the glass tinted enough to soften the glow from outside. Marcus lowered Claire onto one of the couches, propping a small pillow under her head. He slipped off his jacket and folded it, tucking it under her knees to elevate her legs slightly. He checked her pulse with 2 fingers pressed against her wrist, still rapid but less frantic. "Keep sipping," he said, holding the glass for her as he brought it back to her lips. She obeyed, more aware now. Her hand came up weak but present to steady the glass. Her gaze met his over the rim. For the first time since he had seen her in the restaurant, there was no mask, no CEO calm, only a woman whose body had just betrayed her in front of a room full of strangers. "What is happening?" she whispered. "Hypoglycemia and acute stress," he answered. "Your blood sugar tanked, long day, not enough food, too much adrenaline." "I ate at lunch," she said. "When?" he asked. She frowned, trying to remember. 11, she said. "Maybe earlier." He nodded. "And since then," he pressed. She thought of the string of meetings, the coffee, the half glass of white wine she had sipped at the start of dinner to be polite. "Nothing," she admitted. "That is part of it," he said. "Your body is not a machine. It has limits." Her fingers tightened around the glass. "Tell that to the board," she muttered. "I might," he said. She blinked, as if the idea of him in a boardroom was a strange picture. Noah hovered near the end of the couch, close enough to touch her ankle. "Are you going to the hospital again?" he asked. His voice was thin, threaded with fear. Her heart clenched. "No," she said quickly. "I am okay. It was just a little thing." Marcus shook his head. "It was not nothing," he said, but his tone was gentle. "It was also not a heart attack. You scared people, that is all." "You scared me," Noah said. His lower lip trembled. Claire reached out for him. Her hand shook, but she managed to rest it on his knee. "I am sorry," she said. "I did not mean to." His eyes filled. "You fell," he said. "Like Grandma. People fall and then they do not come back." He said it like a fact, not a question. Marcus looked up sharply at that. The guard had retreated to the doorway to give them privacy, but Emma stayed where she was, anchored near her father. Lila stood a little apart, phone in hand, juggling messages, crisis scripts already forming in her mind. She paced in a tight-lined shoes, silent on the carpet. Marcus set the empty glass down on the low table and shifted to sit on the edge of the couch near Claire's feet. "I need to ask," he said. "Any history of diabetes in your family?" "No," she replied. "Just regular heart disease, your stage heart disease and strokes." "Just those," he said dryly. A tiny exhausted exhale escaped her that might have been a laugh in another context. He checked her pulse again, then pushed lightly on her fingernails, watching the color return. "You will be all right," he said. "You need food. Real food, not coffee and air." "I have a meeting," she said automatically. "They can wait," he replied. "They might not," she said. Their eyes met again. He saw the calculation there, the years of knowing exactly how little slack the world gave a woman in her position. He saw the fatigue beneath it, thick and old. "You will not help them by collapsing on a table again in front of cameras," he said. "Trust me, I have seen leaders try to power through while their bodies shut down. It does not end well." Something in his tone made her pause. It was not the words, but the weight behind them. How do you know that? She asked. His gaze flicked to Noah and Emma, then back to her. For a moment, he considered giving the simple answer. I used to work in a hospital. I have seen things. The longer answer pushed against his teeth. He exhaled. I was a trauma doctor, he said. Army Medical Corps. Years of patching people up in places where there were no rooms like this. Claire's brow furrowed. That is why you knew what to do, she said. That is why I recognized your symptoms before your assistant did, he replied. Lila looked up at the word assistant. Her phone buzzed again in her hand. Renee keeps calling, she said. Victor is demanding an update. There is already talk online. Someone posted a clip from the dining room. It is spreading. Claire's stomach lurched. Marcus's jaw tightened. Of course they are, he said quietly. Emma shifted closer, tugging at his sleeve. Dad, she whispered, are we going home? In a bit, he said. Sit with Noah for a second. She obeyed without question, moving to perch on the couch beside him. Noah did not look at her. His attention was fixed on his mother's face, as if by watching he could keep her from disappearing. Claire turned back to Marcus. If you were a doctor, she said, why are you fixing elevators in my buildings? The question was blunt. It did not sound like judgment. It sounded like genuine confusion. He stared at his hands. The scars stood out starkly now against his skin. My wife died, he said, on an operating table in a civilian hospital while I was on a video call consulting on someone else's surgery. The room seemed to shrink by half. Noah stilled completely. Emma's fingers wrapped around the edge of the couch cushion. Claire did not speak. The surgeon called me in midway, Marcus continued. His voice stayed low, but the edges roughened. There were complications. They thought I could help. I told them what to adjust, what to try. Thought I was doing what I was trained to do. When the call ended, she was already gone. He rubbed his thumb along the inside of his palm as if trying to smooth out a memory. I spent years keeping other people alive, he said, under fire in the dark, with nothing but my hands and whatever supplies we could carry. Then the one person I loved most died in a clean, bright room while I was busy being a hero on a screen. He gave a humorless smile. Hero is not a word I like much, he added. Emma leaned against his side, small and solid. Claire watched him, something softening in her face. You walked away, she said quietly. I ran, he corrected. I quit medicine. I took whatever work let me be in the same city as my daughter, close enough to walk her to school, and back again close enough that if anything happened I would not be on a plane or in another time zone. He shrugged. Delivering packages and fixing boilers pays less, he said. It pays in different ways. Noah listened with wide eyes, the lines of his own fear drawing new paths through what he heard. He understood that Marcus had chosen his daughter over a bigger life. He did not have words for how strange and large that choice seemed. Claire opened her mouth to respond, but before she could, Noah's breathing hitched. It was subtle at first. A quickened inhale, a slightly longer exhale, then another, a little sharper. His fingers dug into his pant leg. He stared at his mother, at the pallor that still clung to her skin, at the way her hand trembled faintly, where it rested on top of the couch cushion. Images layered in his head. The way she had fallen, the way Marcus had caught her, the way people had watched. His throat narrowed. Mom, he whispered. He swallowed, but the tightness did not ease. His chest felt too small. Mom, he said again, louder this time. Claire turned her head. Yes, she asked. His eyes brimmed. What if you do not wake up next time? He blurted. What if you do not come back? People fall and they do not come back. You are always gone. And the nannies say you work too much, and one day you will not come home, and they will not know where you went. His words tumbled over each other faster, higher. His breath followed. It came in short, panicked gasps now, each inhale catching at the top of his chest without going quite deep enough. He pressed his hands against his ribs as if they hurt. Lila took a step forward. Noah, she said softly. Sweetheart, it is all right. It was not. Marcus rose from the edge of the couch and crouched in front of Noah, bringing himself eye level with the boy. It is okay, he said. I have you. Noah shook his head hard. I cannot breathe, he said. I cannot. You can, Marcus said. Your body is just confused. He reached out slowly. May I? He asked. Noah hesitated for a fraction of a second, then nodded, desperate. Marcus placed one of Noah's small hands flat against his own chest, just over his heart. Feel that? He asked. Noah's palm rose and fell with the steady rhythm. That is my heartbeat, Marcus said. We are going to make your breathing match it. He drew in a slow breath through his nose, exaggerating the motion so Noah could see his chest rise. In through your nose, he said. Slow. 1, 2, 3. He exhaled through his mouth. Out through your mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Noah tried to follow. The first attempt stuttered. The second was slightly smoother. Good, Marcus said. Again, feel my chest. Match me. Emma watched, eyes huge. Claire lay very still, tears gathering at the corners of her eyes, not from her own physical discomfort, but from the sight of her son clinging to another man's shirt as if it were the only solid thing in the room. Marcus shifted slightly so Noah could lean against him. He kept his voice calm the way he had in tents filled with smoke and dust. Tell me 3 things you can see, he said. Noah blinked. The couch, he managed. The lamp, the window. Good, Marcus said. 2 things you can feel. Your shirt, Noah whispered. His fingers curled in the fabric. The floor under my shoes. 1 thing you can hear, Marcus said. Noah listened. Emma's breathing, he said, voice a little steadier. There you go, Marcus said quietly. The boy's chest rose and fell in something close to a normal rhythm now. The tight band around his ribs loosened. He sagged forward, resting his forehead against Marcus's shoulder. The scent of detergent and clean sweat and something like engine oil filled his nose. You smell like the delivery trucks, Noah mumbled. That is not necessarily a compliment, Marcus replied. It is safe, Noah said. His eyes closed. Marcus stayed where he was, one arm around the boy's back, the other braced on his knee for balance. Claire watched them, her hand pressed against her own chest, feeling the echo of their synchronized breathing. She had spent years buying the best experts for her son, the top specialists, the most experienced nannies. In one unplanned evening, a man who patched boilers and carried packages had given the boy something none of them had. Noah's shoulders, usually taut with invisible tension, finally dropped. He did not let go of Marcus's shirt. For a moment, the lounge held a fragile quiet. The hum of the air system. The soft clink of glass when Claire set it back on the table. Noah's breathing, no longer ragged, pressed against Marcus's shoulder in a slow, tired rhythm. Emma sat close, her hand resting on the cushion beside Noah's leg, as if ready to steady him if he shifted. Lila's phone vibrated again. She looked at the screen, frowned, and took a single step toward Claire. Your assistant is here, she said. She sounds frantic. Before Claire could respond, the door burst open. Renee stepped inside, cheeks flushed, hair slightly out of place, in a way that never happened during normal days at the office. She had her phone in one hand, knuckles white around it. Ms. Winters, she said, breathless, you need to see this. Claire pushed herself up on one elbow. Marcus stayed where he was, still supporting Noah with one arm, but his attention shifted to Renee. Renee crossed the room in quick strides and held out her phone. On the screen, a video filled the frame. Claire saw herself shockingly small inside the picture, sitting at the table, going pale, knocking over the water glass, wobbling, then collapsing into Marcus's arms. A child's cry cut through the audio. The angle was slightly elevated, the vantage point of someone who had stood up in the dining room to get a better shot. In the corner of the screen, comments flicked upward in a blur. Play it again, Renee said. Claire watched herself fall a second time. The second viewing did not hurt less. Her throat tightened. How many people have seen this? She asked. Renee swallowed. It is already on several platforms, she said. Someone posted it to a gossip account 10 minutes ago. They tagged Winters Global. It is being shared fast. Lila moved closer, squinting at the tiny lines of text. They are calling it a breakdown, she said, and a public one. Marcus's jaw clenched. Of course they are, he murmured. Renee scrolled quickly, then opened a message thread. Victor moved the board meeting up, she said. He is calling it an emergency session. He told legal he is invoking the fitness clause. Claire's head throbbed under the soft lamplight. The clause he pushed for, she said. Renee nodded. He is saying he is concerned about leadership stability, she added. He mentioned your hospital visit last month, and now this. He is framing it as a pattern. Claire sat up, fully swinging her legs over the side of the couch. The room tilted for a second, then steadied. Marcus shifted to keep Noah from sliding, but did not rise. Lila's voice came out in a rush. We can deny, she said. Say it was a simple fainting spell, stress, and skipped meals. We can have a statement ready within the hour. If we get ahead of it, maybe we keep the narrative away from mental health speculation. We can lean on the fact that you still showed up tonight with your son. Family values. Commitment. Renee shook her head. The problem is not just the public, she said. Victor does not care what strangers think. He cares what the board sees. The video is already in their inboxes. He is asking if they feel comfortable with a CEO who collapses in public with cameras rolling. There was a bitter taste in Claire's mouth that had nothing to do with sugar and water. They do not care when I leave the office at 2 in the morning, she said quietly. They care when someone records me falling. Noah shifted against Marcus, eyes half open now, listening. Marcus eased him back onto the couch beside Emma. Sit with him, he told her. Keep his hand in yours. She nodded and obeyed, their small fingers linking. Marcus rose and moved to stand nearer the low table between Claire and the doorway. His posture was relaxed, but his attention was sharp. Can I see that again? He asked, nodding at Renee's phone. She blinked, then handed it to him. He watched the video a third time, slower, eyes taking in more than the center of the frame. The edges, the background, the tiny reflections in the glassware. How long between the fall and the post? He asked. Renee frowned. That first upload went up 9 minutes after you fainted, she said. We were still in the dining room. Which means whoever filmed it had a caption ready, Marcus said, or at least knew they wanted to send it somewhere fast. He pinched the screen to zoom out slightly, studying the username. The handle belonged to a local gossip page that often posted pictures of executives and celebrities in the city. Its logo sat in the corner, familiar even to someone who did not follow it. He scrolled down. Several of the top comments had the same phrasing about unstable leadership and meltdown and concerns for shareholder confidence. These are not random words, he said. Someone seeded them. Lila stepped closer, curiosity cutting through her panic. What do you mean? She asked. In my old job, he said, eyes still on the screen. We watched how rumors moved through camps and towns. Genuine reactions are messy. They use different language. They contradict each other. This feels coordinated. The same phrases repeated by accounts that all follow the same set of business blogs and financial channels. He looked up. This is not just a video that got lucky, he said. It is a piece in a plan. Victor did not just move the meeting, he prepared the stage. Renee shifted, her weight, guilt flashing across her face. I did not know he would do it tonight, she said quickly. He told me to let him know if you showed any signs of strain. He said it was for your own good, that the board needed to be aware if you were overworking. Claire turned her head slowly. What did you tell him? She asked. Renee flushed. I mentioned the hospital checkup last month, she admitted, and the panic report you did with HR after the cyber attack. I thought he genuinely wanted to protect you. I am so sorry, Claire. I did not think he would turn it like this. Claire's fingers curled on her knee. Who filmed in the restaurant? Marcus asked. I do not know, Renee said. It could have been anyone. It could have been someone asked to be there for that purpose, he replied. An assistant, a junior staffer, someone who could sit nearby without attracting attention. He glanced at Lila. How many people knew you would be at Aurelia tonight? He asked her. Publicly, she said. None. Internally, the PR team, your security, my assistant Victor, because we cleared the timing with him, and a few others. Victor knew there would be cameras, Marcus said. Soft press, as you call it. He handed the phone back to Renee. Someone in that circle either tipped off the gossip page or was their eyes in the room, he said. Either way, Victor is building a story. The video is not about you as a person. It is a symbol he can wave in front of the board. Claire pressed her fingertips to her temples. He is going to use my son seeing me fall as a reason to take my company, she said. Marcus shook his head. No, he said. He is going to try. There is a difference. Lila looked between them. We do not have much time, she said. The board is meeting tonight. He will frame it as concern. He will have talking points ready. They will see this clip and very few will think beyond it. Marcus considered that, his eyes dark. You cannot erase the video, he said. Trying would make it worse. People cling to things they think are forbidden. You cannot deny that you fell. That would insult everyone who watched it with their own eyes. So what do I do? Claire asked. You tell the truth, he said. She let out a short, harsh laugh. The truth is that I fainted in a restaurant because I was foolish enough to go 12 hours without eating, she said. I do not see how that helps. He shook his head. The truth is that you have been running flat out both as a leader and as a mother in a company where your own head of operations is willing to orchestrate a public collapse to steal your chair, he said. The truth is that the only people who saw you as a human being tonight were your son and a stranger you barely know. Her mouth closed around whatever she had been about to say. Lila's eyebrows rose. That is not the worst soundbite, she said. It is not a soundbite, Marcus replied. It is the frame. Victor wants to turn your vulnerability into proof that you are unfit. You turn it into proof that you are fighting in an environment that would rather break you than support you. Renee looked down at her phone again, scrolling quickly. He is calling it a stability issue, she said. He is telling the board he worries about the effect of your episodes on investor confidence. Marcus's lips flattened. Fine, he said. Then you call it what it is. An acute physical response to chronic pressure and a hostile working relationship. He glanced at Claire. Are you willing to say that in front of them? He asked. She pictured the long table, the faces that had sat across from her for years. Some supportive, some indifferent, some quietly resentful of her presence at the head. She had always met them with perfect posture and unshakable control. The idea of standing in front of them, exposed in this way, made something in her recoil. At the same time, another part of her bone-deep tired wondered what it would feel like to speak without armor. I do not know if they will listen, she said. They will if you give them a reason, he said. He turned to Lila. You told me they care about narrative, he said, about how things look. Help her shape it, not as a victim, not as a liability, as someone whose humanity was weaponized. Lila stared at him for a moment, as if seeing him for the first time outside of rolled sleeves and a plain watch. You sound like you have done this before, she said. In a different theater, he replied. Different uniforms, same tactics. Noah shifted on the couch, blinking himself fully awake. His hand never left Marcus's shirt. Are they taking your job? He asked his mother. The room went very quiet. Claire looked at him. They are trying, she said, but I am not giving it up easily. His face crumpled. I do not want them to take you away, he said. You are already gone all the time. The words landed with more force than any accusation from a shareholder. Claire's throat burned. She reached out and stroked his hair, the movement slow and awkward, as if she were learning a new skill. They are not taking me away from you, she said. Not if I can help it. Marcus watched the two of them, his expression unreadable. He thought of Emma's report card on the fridge anchored by a chipped red heart. He thought of leaving the hospital job, of choosing to be present in one small life rather than spread thin over many. He looked at Claire. You should not go back to your penthouse alone tonight, he said. She raised an eyebrow. That is a bold suggestion, she said. I do not mean it like that, he replied. I mean you should not walk into this fight from the top of a glass tower with no one beside you that you trust. He glanced at Emma, then back at Claire. Come home with us then, Emma said suddenly, misreading his thought and offering the only solution that made sense in her world. Marcus smiled despite himself. I was going to suggest the opposite, he said. If you are inviting advisors into the room tomorrow, invite me properly. Let me look at what Victor is sending the board. Let me help you see where the holes are. Claire studied him. You want to stand in front of my board with me, she said. I want to keep them from using tonight as a weapon against you and your son, he answered. She considered the absurdity of the picture. A former army doctor turned maintenance worker standing beside her in a boardroom of polished wood and polished people talking about strategy and health. Absurd. Also, for the first time in hours, not entirely hopeless. All right, she said. Come tomorrow. She hesitated, then added more quietly, come to the house first. There is space to talk there without anyone watching. Renee blinked. You want to bring them to your home? She asked. Claire nodded. I am done doing everything behind glass, she said. She looked at Marcus. Can you get Emma home tonight and back in the morning? She asked. Or is that too much to ask? Marcus glanced at his daughter. Her eyes were already bright with the idea of a house she had only half glimpsed when they arrived. We will manage, he said. Noah sat up straighter. Are they coming over? He asked. Claire met his gaze. If that is all right with you, she said. He nodded without hesitation. I like them, he said simply. Emma grinned at him. Maybe your house smells like something other than pasta water and laundry, she said. It smells like candles, Noah replied, and glass cleaner. She wrinkled her nose. We can fix that, she said. Marcus exhaled the tension in his shoulders, finally loosening an inch. The river pressed gently against the windows outside the glow from the city, softened through tinted glass. For the first time that night, the reflection in the pane showed not just Claire alone against a skyline. It showed four figures close together, lit by the same small lamps, breathing the same quiet air. The drive north felt quieter than the one that had taken them to Aurelia. The city slid past in streaks of orange and white streetlights smearing across the windows. Noah leaned against his seat, eyelids heavy, one sneaker pressed lightly against Emma's. He did not move his foot. Emma traced shapes in the fog her breath made on the glass. Hearts, stars, a lopsided house. Marcus sat opposite them, watching the dark between the buildings where the neighborhoods changed. Brick and faded billboards gave way to cleaner sidewalks, then to rows of trees lit from below their trunks, turning silver in the headlights. Claire sat beside him, phone silent in her hand. Lila and Renee had taken another car already on calls spinning words into nets. You can still change your mind, Marcus said quietly. She looked at him. About what? She asked. About having us at your house, he replied. You are not obligated. Her fingers tightened around the phone just enough that the leather case creaked. They have seen me fall in public tonight, she said. I think the line for what is appropriate is already blurred. He tilted his head, a faint hint of a smile touching his mouth. That is one way to put it, he said. The car turned off Lakeshore Drive and into a quieter neighborhood. The houses here did not stack on top of one another. They took up space, each one its own statement. Claire's home sat behind a low iron gate, glass and stone broad steps leading to a wide front door of dark wood and steel. The walls were more window than anything else, reflecting the night back at itself. The gate rolled open with a soft mechanical hum. The car eased up the driveway and stopped under a recessed overhang. Lights came on automatically along the path, a soft glow that made everything look like a photograph. Whoa, Emma breathed. Her nose was practically pressed to the glass. This is not a house, she muttered. It is a spaceship. Noah did not disagree. He sat up straighter, suddenly self-conscious. The place looked different from the outside at night, more like an exhibit than somewhere people slept. The driver opened the door. Cold air reached in and brushed over their faces, carrying the smell of damp earth and the faint sweetness of some carefully planted shrub. Claire stepped out first and turned back toward the car. Noah, she said, come on. He slid out, then stepped back enough to leave room for Emma. She hopped down behind him, sneakers squeaking on the smooth stone. Her eyes darted everywhere at once. Is it all windows? She asked. Mostly, Noah said. Do birds ever crash into it? She wanted to know. Sometimes, he answered. They leave marks. The staff cleans them. Emma made a small, sympathetic noise. Poor birds, she said. Marcus climbed out, shutting the door gently behind him. He took in the wide entryway, the high ceiling above the porch, the way the light inside shone through the glass, and turned the front hall into a lantern. It is beautiful, he said. It is efficient, Claire replied. Solar gain, natural light. She walked ahead. The door unlocked with a soft click and swung inward without a sound. Inside, the air smelled faintly of citrus and something floral. The foyer opened into a long hallway with polished floors and a wall of glass on one side that looked out over a landscaped yard. The other side held a series of framed photographs and minimalist art pieces spaced perfectly along the wall. Their steps echoed. Emma tugged at Noah's sleeve. Where do you keep the toys? She whispered. In my room, he replied. And the playroom. She nodded solemnly. Good, she said. A house this big needs toys. Claire led them past a sitting room that looked like it had been set up for a magazine shoot. White couches, a glass coffee table, books arranged with their spines lined up perfectly. No blankets, no coffee rings, no stray socks. Marcus's eyes caught on a piano in the corner, its lid gleaming. No music on the stand, no pencil marks on the keys. Anyone play? He asked. Not lately, Claire said. The words hung there. They reached a wide staircase. The rail was smooth and cool under Emma's hand as she ran her palm along it, testing the glide. Slow down, Marcus said automatically. I am not running, she argued in a whisper. You are thinking about it, he replied. She grinned. Upstairs, the hallway was lined with more glass. A long window overlooked the city, in the distance tiny lights pricking the horizon. Claire stopped at a door and opened it with a slight push. This is Noah's room, she said. The kids spilled in. The room was large, almost echoing. One wall was covered with shelves, each holding neatly arranged toys, books, and models. A bed sat against another wall, perfectly made. No clothes on the floor, no half-finished projects on the desk. Emma turned a slow circle. Do you sleep in a catalog? She asked. Noah shrugged. Anna cleans up, he said, and the staff. Do you ever mess it up? She asked. I used to, he said. They put it back. That sounds exhausting, she muttered. She walked over to a tall set of shelves, eyeing the stack of board games, the boxes of building sets. Many had never been opened, the plastic still taut over the cardboard. No one has touched these, she said. They are for when I have friends over, Noah replied. Do you ever have friends over? She asked. He hesitated. Not really, he said. She nodded as if this confirmed something she had already suspected. Then we should mess it up, she decided. He stared at her. What? He asked. Not mean mess, she said. Good mess, the kind with forts. He frowned. Forts, he repeated. She pointed at the bed, then at a couple of armchairs near the window, then at the pile of blankets folded neatly in a basket. We can build a base, she said. Secret headquarters, first mission in the glass spaceship. Noah looked to Claire uncertain. She stood in the doorway watching. The question was not about permission to play. It was about whether chaos was allowed. She thought of the photo on her desk of Noah clinging to her leg years ago, before schedules and reputations had tightened around their days. "You can use whatever blankets you want," she said slowly. "Just do not jump off the furniture." Emma's face lit up. "Yes, ma'am," she said, already moving. She grabbed a blanket, tossed one end to Noah, and pulled the other herself. "Help me drape it over the chair," she said. "You are taller." He reached up, stretching the fabric over the chair back. It slipped once, then caught. She anchored the other corner on the bedpost. They worked in small, frantic bursts, moving cushions, rearranging pillows, crawling underneath to check the effect. Their voices rose and fell, a mix of suggestions and giggles. The fort took shape. A tunnel from the edge of the bed to the corner by the window. A command center made from 2 beanbags tucked under overlapping blankets. Flashlights appeared from somewhere, their beams cutting lines through the dim interior. Noah ducked inside the blanket, brushing his hair. He looked back for a second, as if expecting someone to tell him to stop. No one did. He crawled deeper. Inside the fort, the air smelled different. Less like glass cleaner, and more like warm cotton. The low ceiling made everything feel closer, smaller, safer. "This is better," he whispered. Emma flopped down beside him on a beanbag. "Your house just needed a little help," she said. Out in the hallway, Marcus and Claire stood side by side, listening to the muffled laughter. "How long has it been since he had another child in here?" Marcus asked. Claire thought about it. "A while," she said. "Playdates are complicated, schedules, security, parents with questions." "Sometimes complicated is worth it," he said. "I know," she replied. They moved toward the stairs again. "In the kitchen we can put something in you that is not sugar water and adrenaline," Marcus said. "If you pass out again, I am going to start charging you by the consult." She raised an eyebrow. "Do you still take payment in gratitude?" she asked. "These days I take it in grilled cheese," he answered. The kitchen was wide and spotless, full of smooth surfaces and high-end appliances. A long island sat in the middle with stools lined up along one side. It looked like a cooking show set that had been abandoned between takes. A stainless steel pot sat drying by the sink. A cutting board leaned against the backsplash, no knife marks marring its surface. "Anna has evenings off," Claire said. "Most nights I am not home for dinner." Marcus opened a cabinet without asking, then another, until he found bread and cheese and butter. "Good," he said. "Then we are not interrupting her territory." He set the ingredients on the counter and reached for a skillet. "You do not have to cook," Claire said. "We could order something." "You ate almost nothing at the restaurant," he reminded her. "You need real food, comfort food, simple." He turned on the stove, the burner clicking into a quiet blue flame. The smell of butter blooming in a hot pan began to fill the air, settling over the citrus and floral notes with something more human. Toasting bread, melting cheese, a hint of browning at the edges. Claire leaned against the opposite counter, arms crossed loosely, watching his hands. "You do this a lot?" she asked. "Too much," he said. "It is one of the 3 things I can make that always works. That and pasta and pancakes that are slightly burned on one side." He flipped a sandwich with a practiced wrist. "Emma does the tasting," he added. "Quality control." "Does she ever complain?" Claire asked. "Only that there is not more," he said. He glanced up, catching her watching. "You have people for this," he said. "You are probably not used to seeing someone make your food at your stove." "It is my stove," she said. "I own it. I just rarely stand in front of it." "Noah ever see you cook?" he asked. She opened her mouth, then closed it. "No," she said softly. Marcus slid a finished sandwich onto a plate and started another. "You are still here," he said. "You can start." She let that sit between them. He cut the sandwich diagonally, the knife sliding through the crisp bread with a satisfying crunch. He handed her the plate. "Eat," he said. The first bite was hotter than she expected. The cheese stretched soft and familiar in a way that tugged at something behind her ribs. The butter crackled pleasantly against the roof of her mouth. She realized she was hungrier than she had admitted to herself. Half the sandwich was gone before she slowed. Marcus watched with approval. "In my professional opinion," he said, "that alone might save your career." She smiled around the last bite. "I thought the only things that counted were quarterly reports and investor calls," she said. "Those count," he replied. "So does not fainting in front of them." Footsteps approached. Emma appeared in the doorway, hair standing up in small, static wisps from crawling under blankets. Noah hovered behind her, cheeks flushed. "Something smells good," Emma announced. "Grilled cheese," Marcus said. "The emergency kind." Her face lit up. "Can we have some?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "Sit." She hopped onto one of the stools at the island. Noah climbed onto the one next to her, movements more careful. Claire watched them settle. Their elbows brushed. They did not move away. She took her plate to the island and sat down too. For a moment, they were simply 4 people in a kitchen. Marcus handed out sandwiches, smaller triangles for the kids. They ate with the focus of the truly hungry crumbs scattering on the counter. "This is better than fancy noodles," Emma declared between bites. "Do not tell the restaurant," Marcus said. "I will tell everyone," she replied. Noah chewed thoughtfully. "It tastes like cartoons," he said. Marcus frowned, amused. "That is a new one," he said. "What does that even mean?" "Like Saturday mornings," Noah said. "Blankets, no one rushing. That is when I see grilled cheese in movies. People are always happy when they eat it." Claire stared at him. "You could have told me that," she said slowly. He shrugged. "I did not think it was allowed," he said. The words sank in with the weight of simple truth. After they ate, Emma and Noah drifted back upstairs to their fort armed with flashlights and the promise of more stories. Claire and Marcus ended up on the terrace. The door slid open on silent tracks. A sweep of cool air washed over them as they stepped outside. Glass panels rose along the edge, clear and high, a barrier that let in the city but kept out the wind. Below, the neighborhood stretched out in a pattern of gentle lights. In the distance, the downtown skyline glowed familiar and distant like another country. Claire wrapped her arms around herself, not from cold. "When I bought this place," she said, "everyone told me the view was the selling point." "It is a good view," Marcus said. "It is also very far away from everything," she replied. He came to stand beside her, resting his hands lightly on the polished rail. "Feels that way sometimes," he said. She watched his reflection in the glass. It sat beside her own 2 shapes outlined in the faint glow from inside. "For years," she said, "I thought the only way to be taken seriously was to be sharper than everyone else. Colder, less breakable. People called me an ice queen and I let them. It was easier than being called weak." He listened without interrupting. "I built walls," she continued. "Bedrooms, offices, this terrace, all glass. You can see everything, but you cannot touch it." She thought of Noah under the blanket fort, the way his shoulders had dropped when the fabric hid the rest of the room. "Tonight, those walls did not keep out anything," she said. "Not the stress, not the cameras, not the fall. And they did not keep us out either," he said. She looked at him. "You walked in because my son tugged on my sleeve," she said. "If he had not, you would have had your quiet dinner with Emma, gone home, and I would have fainted in a private room where no one could see." "Maybe," he said. She turned her gaze back to the skyline. "They are going to come after me hard," she said. "Victor, some of the board, they will use tonight. They will use the hospital. They will use any moment I let the mask slip." "It sounds exhausting," he said. "It is," she replied. The wind nudged a strand of hair loose from her bun. She did not fix it. "I am tired of being a fortress," she said. "My son does not need a fortress. He needs someone who is actually in the room." "Then be in the room," he said simply. She let out a breath that shook a little at the edges. "Will you be in it too?" she asked. Ishiviri asked. He turned his head slightly. "You are asking me to stand next to you in a room that was not built for men like me," he said. "I am asking you to stand next to me in a room that does not know what to do with people who see beyond balance sheets," she replied. He considered that. "Boardrooms are just tents with better furniture," he said finally. "Same fears, same egos, less dust." A small startled laugh escaped her. "That is one way to look at it," she said. He nodded. "I will be there," he said. "Not for them, for you, and for Noah." She met his eyes. "Thank you," she said. He shrugged, but there was a quiet seriousness behind it. "Someone has to make sure you remember to eat," he said, "and to breathe." Her gaze dipped to his hands on the rail knuckles still marked by old stories, then up again to his face. "You said earlier that you ran from saving people," she said. "Now you are walking back toward it." "I am not going back to what I was," he said. "This is different. This is smaller." "Smaller," she repeated. "One company," he said. 2 kids, one very stubborn CEO. She smiled, a real one this time, unpracticed and a little crooked. "That sounds like plenty," she said. Behind them, through the glass, the soft beam of a flashlight flickered inside the fort in Noah's room. 2 small silhouettes moved under blankets, their shadows dancing across the wall. On the terrace, Claire and Marcus stood side by side, the air between them, thinner than it had been at the start of the night, their reflections no longer isolated shapes against the glass. Morning came in thin gray light that turned the city into a sketch. Claire stood at the tall window in her bedroom, coffee cooling forgotten on the nightstand. Down below the driveway was a small strip of asphalt against the neat curve of the lawn. 2 small figures appeared in her line of sight. Emma ran in uneven bursts, her backpack bouncing. Noah walked beside her, its tucked in his pockets, matching her pace without quite matching her energy. Marcus followed a step behind them. The collar of his clean shirt turned up against the early chill, a messenger bag slung across his shoulder. For a moment, the three of them on her driveway looked like they belonged to another story, one with simpler lines. Claire turned away from the glass. She found Noah in the hallway a few minutes later, hair still damp, tie crooked. He was struggling with the knot in the mirror fingers, fumbling. "Here," she said. He froze. "I can do it," he said automatically. "The mirror is not helping," she replied. "Turn around." He did. Her fingers were not as practiced as Anna's, but the movement came back in muscle memory, from years of corporate dress codes. Wrap, cross, pull. Noah watched her in the reflection. His expression was serious, almost solemn, as if committing the moment to some private archive. "There," she said, tightening the knot gently. "Not perfect. Good enough." He touched the knot like it was something fragile. "Thank you," he said. She nodded and stepped back. In the foyer, Emma hopped from one foot to the other, studying the tall arrangement of flowers on the entry table. "Are these real?" she asked. "Sometimes," Claire said. "Today they are." Emma leaned in and sniffed dramatically. "They smell like soap," she declared. Marcus stood near the door, taking in the high ceiling, the way the morning light fell differently through the glass than it had at night. "You do not have to come all the way in," Claire told him. "You can meet us at the office." He shook his head. "We are already here," he said. "Might as well finish the commute." The car ride downtown felt different with four people in the back. Emma pressed her face to the window, narrating the changing buildings in a low stream. "Brick glass, brick tree dog, very fancy dog, more glass," she murmured. Noah corrected her quietly when she misnamed a landmark. He knew the city from above, from drives like this, from models and lobby displays. Claire watched his voice gain confidence with each correction, the way Emma listened, like his knowledge mattered. Marcus sat between them, knees angled to give the kids more room, hands folded loosely in his lap. His gaze shifted between the streets outside and Claire across from him. "You eat?" he asked when the driver stopped at a light. "Toast," she said, "and that coffee I left half full." He gave her a look. "That is a start," he said. "At least your blood sugar is not starting in the basement." The car pulled up in front of Winters Global. The building rose in front of them, all steel and glass, taller than most of its neighbors. Morning traffic flowed around its base, employees in lanyards and suits, dipping in and out of the revolving doors. A digital ticker wrapped around the second story, flashing stock prices and headlines. One of the smaller screens held a muted image of Claire from a financial news segment last year, the headline beneath it mentioning resilience in volatile markets. Now another headline on a different channel in the lobby played a looped, grainy clip of her in Aurelia pausing just before the fall. Claire's stomach tightened. The security team met them at the curb. "Ms. Winters," the lead guard said, "we have secured a private elevator for you and your guests. The board has already arrived." Claire glanced at Noah and Emma. "You take the kids to the family room on 17, she said. "Lila will meet you there. There are snacks, games. They can stay until the meeting is over." Noah's hand found her sleeve. "I want to be near you," he said. "You will be," she replied, "just a few floors away. I need you to be somewhere you feel safe, not in a room where people might raise their voices." He searched her face. "Are they going to yell?" he asked. "They might," she said. "At each other, not at you." Emma nudged him with her elbow. "I will stay with you," she offered. "If anyone yells, we can put our fingers in our ears and make up our own stories." He considered that, then nodded reluctantly. "Can we see the river from 17? He asked the guard. "Yes," the man said. "Big windows." "Then we can watch," Emma said. "It will be like being in a treehouse, but vertical." Marcus crouched to meet their eyes. "You two stick together," he said. "That is your mission." They both straightened a little at the word mission. "Yes, sir," Emma said. Noah nodded again, the tie brushing his chin. Claire watched them walk toward the side entrance, flanked by security. Their small backs disappeared through the revolving doors, swallowed by the lobby's polished glare. In the private elevator, the silence felt louder. Claire smoothed her hands over the front of her jacket. "The board knows you are coming," Marcus asked. "I told them I would be present to address any concerns," she said. "I did not mention you. Surprise appearances keep people honest," he said, "for at least 30 seconds. The doors opened onto the top floor. The hallway here was lined with artwork chosen by a committee. Abstract shapes and cool tones. A series of black and white photographs of the company's early days, factories and trucks, and grainy group shots of men in suits. Claire's heels made almost no sound on the carpet as she walked. Marcus followed beside her, his steps heavier. The boardroom doors stood at the end of the hall, wide and polished, the company logo etched in frosted glass across them. For a brief second she saw herself in the reflection. Not the woman in promotional photos lit and edited, just herself, hair smoothed, but not perfect, a faint shadow under her eyes. Marcus's outline stood beside hers, solid and unvarnished. She pushed the door open. Conversation hummed inside, low and threaded with tension. The long table stretched toward the windows, which framed a sweep of the city below. Leather chairs ringed it, many already occupied. Victor Sloan stood near the far end, talking in a small cluster. His suit was immaculate, his tie perfectly knotted. When he saw Claire, his face rearranged itself into an expression of carefully measured concern. "Claire," he said, "thank you for coming on such short notice." "I got your messages," she said. "Hard to miss." All eyes turned toward Marcus, curious. He felt the weight of their attention, but did not flinch. He slipped into a chair against the wall, not at the table close enough to see the screens, clearly far enough that no one could accuse him of claiming a seat that was not his. Evelyn Hart sat halfway down the table, a slim folder in front of her. She glanced at Marcus with a flicker of recognition, then at Claire. Her expression today was harder to read than it had been in the restaurant. Victor tapped the tablet in front of him. The large screen on the wall flickered to life. Before he could launch into anything, Claire spoke. "Before we begin," she said, "let me make one thing clear. I did not come here to listen to people talk about me as if I am not in the room." A couple of board members shifted in their seats. Victor smiled with a small practiced tilt of his mouth. "Of course not," he said. "This is about transparency, about ensuring that our leadership remains strong and stable in the eyes of our investors and employees." He tapped the tablet again. The video from Aurelia appeared on the screen. Light music, then Claire at the corner table. The glass tipping, the fall, Marcus catching her, Noah's cry. Someone inhaled sharply. "We have all seen this by now," Victor said. "It has been circulating since last night. These things happen, of course. People faint. People get overwhelmed. We are all human. However, given recent events, it would be irresponsible not to ask what this means for Winters Global." He leaned his hands on the table. "Last month, Claire visited the hospital for what was described to us as a routine check," he continued. "There were also reports filed with HR after the cyber attack regarding acute stress responses. Now we have a public incident recorded by at least half a dozen people that has already begun to raise questions online about her fitness to lead." The word fitness hung in the air. Claire kept her expression neutral, but her lungs felt tight. Victor flicked through a series of slides. Social media posts, headlines, a few particularly blunt comments circled in red. "We all know markets are skittish," he said. "Confidence is everything. When your CEO collapses in a crowded restaurant in front of your own child, that confidence can be shaken. I worry about the message this sends." Evelyn steepled her fingers. "What do you propose?" she asked. "At minimum, a formal review," Victor said. "A discussion with medical professionals of our choosing. Possibly a temporary step back from day-to-day operations while we assess. It is not punitive. It is protective." Protective. Marcus's hands curled into loose fists where they rested on his knees. He had heard that word used to justify many things. Protective custody, protective reassignment, protective house arrest. He saw the way some of the board members leaned toward Victor as he spoke, nodding. A few others looked uncomfortable but silent. Claire let him finish. When he finally paused, she spoke. "If you are going to decide my future based on a clip recorded without my consent, you should at least hear what actually happened," she said. Victor spread his hands. "By all means, he replied. Claire stood a little straighter. "I worked 12 hours yesterday without stopping to eat," she said. "I had coffee. I had meetings. I had fires to put out. I chose to attend a dinner with my son at the end of that day, because you and our PR team insist the public needs to see me as softer, more human." A few people shifted again. I stood up, my blood sugar dropped, and I fainted. In public. On camera, she continued. It was embarrassing. It was not a breakdown. It was not a sign that I am incapable of thinking clearly. It was my body reminding me that I cannot treat it like a machine. Victor opened his mouth, but she did not give him the chance to interrupt. "What concerns me more," she said, "is how quickly that video found its way to accounts that happened to use the same language you just used. Unstable, meltdown, fitness." Several heads turned toward Victor now. He kept his face smooth. "You are suggesting I orchestrated a health incident," he said slowly. "That is quite an accusation. I am suggesting you were waiting for an opportunity to use any visible moment of weakness," she replied. You pushed for a stricter fitness clause. You knew my schedule. You knew I would be at Aurelia. You had this meeting moved to follow the leak of that video exactly. That is not concern, that is strategy. She glanced toward Marcus. He rose from his chair against the wall. If you will allow it, Claire said, I brought someone who can speak to both the medical and tactical sides of what you saw. Victor frowned, gaze flicking over Marcus with open skepticism. And you are, he asked. Marcus Reed, he said. I work in your maintenance department. Before that, I served as a trauma doctor in the Army for approximately 10 years. A murmur rustled through the room. Evelyn's brows lifted, interest sharpening. Marcus stepped closer to the table, careful not to loom. He placed his hands flat on the back of an empty chair, grounding himself. I was in the restaurant last night, he said. I was sitting at that table with my daughter when Claire fainted. I caught her so she would not crack her skull on the corner of the table. I have also reviewed the online spread of this video since then. He nodded toward the screen. Medically, he said, what you are looking at is a fairly textbook case of hypoglycemia combined with acute stress. Her heart rate spiked, her blood sugar dropped after a very long day without substantial food, and her body gave her the only command it had left. Sit down, now. She did not have time to obey. One of the older board members, a man with a thin mustache and a heart medication bottle, half hidden by his notepad, nodded slowly. So you are saying it is not dangerous, he said. I am saying it is a warning sign to adjust behavior, not a chronic condition that will render her unable to make decisions, Marcus replied. If she ignores it, yes, you could have a problem. If she responds by treating her body with a fraction of the discipline she uses on your quarterly reports, she will be fine. A small ripple of reluctant amusement moved through the room at that. Victor folded his arms. Even so, he said, public perception is already forming. We cannot control that. Marcus looked at him. Perception does not form in a vacuum, he said. Someone feeds it. You did not just show this video to the board. It appeared on an account that covers executive gossip minutes after Claire hit the floor. The wording in several of the early comments matches phrases in emails you sent to staff last month discussing the fitness clause. He clicked his own small remote. Another screen lit up, this one pulling from internal communication records. Renee had helped him gather them in the hour before the meeting, her own guilt driving a frantic sort of cooperation. Side by side, the phrases lined up. Leadership stability. Concerns about episodes. Impact on shareholder confidence. Eyes around the table moved back and forth between the lines. You have been seeding doubt for weeks, Marcus said quietly. This video is not an unfortunate coincidence. It is an opportunity you prepared yourself to exploit. Silence settled over the table like a dropped blanket. Victor's jaw worked once the only visible crack in his composure. Are you accusing me of manipulating internal communications? He asked. Based on what exactly, Mr. Reed? A few similar words. Marcus did not flinch. Based on timing, he said. Patterns. And the fact that your assistant contacted that gossip account 2 minutes after Claire hit the floor. He clicked again. The screen shifted to a screenshot of a direct message thread. Names and profile pictures blurred except for one. The handle was unmistakably Renee's. A timestamp sat beside it, paired with the first message. Big story. Claire Winters at Aurelia. You will want this. Renee sat in a chair near the back wall, shoulders tense. She did not look away. I thought it was about controlling the narrative, she said to the room, words coming out in a rush. Victor said if we let one account handle the footage, we could manage how it looked. I did not realize he wanted to use it to trigger this. Her gaze slid to Claire. I am sorry, she said. I should have come to you first. Evelyn's eyes sharpened. Victor, she said, turning her attention to him. Is that true? He gave a small dismissive gesture. Renee is young, he said. She misunderstood. I told her to monitor public channels, not feed them. Marcus tilted his head. Then perhaps you can explain why your personal email appears here, he said, clicking one last time. The screen split. On one side, Victor's message to Renee from a week earlier, urging her to be vigilant for any incidents that might support a necessary transition in leadership. On the other, a draft talking points document attached to an email from Victor, to legal dated 2 days before the dinner at Aurelia. The subject line read, "In case of public episode." Victor's face flushed a slow, angry red that crept up from his collar. You had a script ready, Evelyn said. Her voice had lost its earlier languid quality. Before anything happened, before any clip existed. Prudent risk management, Victor replied. We all know declines can happen quickly. We cannot afford to be caught off guard. His tone sharpened. That does not change the fact that there was an episode, he continued. That is the core issue here. Marcus stepped back slightly, leaving the center of the room. This is not my boardroom, he said. I am not here to tell you how to run your company. I am here to tell you that the narrative you are being sold about last night is incomplete. He looked around the table, catching each person's gaze for a fraction of a second. You do not have to like Claire, he said. You do not even have to approve of her choices. But you should at least base your decisions on facts, not on a clip stripped of context and handed to you by someone with a personal stake in knocking her down. He sat back in his chair against the wall. The room absorbed his words in a hushed, uneasy silence. Evelyn broke it. When I saw that video last night, she said, turning her attention to Claire, I was furious. Not because you fainted. People faint. I was furious that you were careless enough to do it in public. A few heads turned at her bluntness. She did not seem to notice. Then I came here, she went on. I expected to see someone fragile, a liability. Instead, I see a man who caught you before you hit the floor, then walked into this room and showed more backbone than half the consultants we have paid over the past decade. Her gaze swung back to Victor. And I see a head of operations who had a crisis speech drafted before there was a crisis, she said. That does not look like concern for the company. That looks like ambition of the ugliest kind. Victor stiffened. You cannot be serious, he said. I have given 20 years to this firm. I have increased margins, expanded our footprint, cleaned up messes no one else wanted to touch. You would question my loyalty over a few emails and the word of a maintenance worker. He spat the last two words like they tasted bad. Marcus did not react. Claire did. That maintenance worker, she said evenly, diagnosed my condition before my assistant did, prevented a head injury, stabilized my breathing, and kept my son from spiraling into a full breakdown. He did that without a contract obligation or a retainer fee. She placed her hands flat on the table. How many times have you done as much for anyone in this company? She asked Victor. The question hung like a weight. He looked around, searching for an ally. A few of the men who usually nodded along with him avoided his gaze. One cleared his throat. I want to know, he said slowly, whether the doctors believe this is a one-time event or part of a pattern. If it is the former, this is embarrassing but manageable. If it is the latter, we do have a duty to address it. Claire opened her mouth, but Marcus spoke first. I cannot speak for a doctor who has not examined her, he said, but based on what I saw and what I know from last night, this was the body saying enough after too little fuel and too much strain. She has not had previous fainting episodes on record. She has had stress. So have most of you. The older board member with the hidden heart bottle shifted in his chair, looking down at his notes. If you are serious about stability, Marcus continued, you should be looking at the system that expects a human being to run at redline without pausing to eat or breathe, not just at the one time she toppled. Evelyn's lips pressed together, then parted. I move that we table the fitness clause invocation, she said suddenly, indefinitely. Victor stared at her. You cannot be serious, he said again. I am, she replied. We can arrange for a voluntary checkup with a physician of her choosing if it makes everyone sleep better at night. But we are not removing or sidelining our CEO because she finally did what I have been expecting her to do for years under your workload. She looked around. All in favor, she asked. Claire's heart held still for a beat. Hands lifted. Not all of them. Enough. The motion passed. Victor's face went flat. This is a mistake, he said. The market does not care about your sentimentality. Evelyn's gaze cooled. The market cares about return and stability, she replied, both of which I have more confidence in with Claire at the helm than with someone who turns a minor incident into a staged crisis for personal gain. A second board member, a woman in her 50s with sharp eyes and a calm demeanor, spoke up. We also have to discuss the appropriateness of an executive using junior staff to feed material to gossip outlets, she said. That erodes trust at every level of this organization. Renee looked down at her hands. Victor's shoulders tightened. If you are implying I should step aside after everything I have built here, you are out of line, he said. We are not implying, the woman said. We are stating. She glanced toward Claire. As chair, you can recommend his suspension pending further review, she said. But I think we all know where this is heading. Claire held Victor's gaze. For years, he had stood just to her right in meetings offering data suggestions, thinly veiled challenges. He had been useful, efficient, ruthless in ways that sometimes benefited the company and sometimes only himself. You have been a strong operator, she said. You have also made it clear that you do not believe in my leadership. That is your right. Using my own vulnerability as ammunition in a secret campaign to unseat me is not. She straightened. Effective immediately, she said, you are relieved of your duties as head of operations. HR will assist you with the necessary paperwork. The board will decide what, if any, role you have here in the future. The room held its breath. Victor's eyes flashed. You will regret this, he said. Possibly, she replied, but at least I will regret a choice I made with my eyes open. He shoved his chair back. The legs scraped harshly against the floor. Without another word, he strode to the door and yanked it open. It swung shut behind him with a dull final thud. The air felt thinner, as if some pressure system had shifted. Evelyn exhaled slowly. Well, she said, that was more excitement than I expected before noon. A few people chuckled weakly. She turned to Marcus. You, she said, are an interesting man. I am a maintenance worker, he said. You are more than that, and we both know it, she replied. Who compiled those message timelines for you? He glanced toward the back of the room where Renee sat. She did, he said. Evelyn nodded. Then I suggest we show some mercy to the young woman who made a poor choice under bad guidance, she said. And perhaps we consider formalizing your role here, Mr. Reed. Claire cleared her throat. I have a proposal on that front, she said. Heads turned toward her again. Last night, she said, I saw what happens when our systems treat people as interchangeable parts. I also saw what happens when someone with both medical training and strategic instincts steps in. She looked at Marcus, then back at the board. I want to create a new role, she went on, Chief Health and Humanity Officer. Someone whose job is to look at how we are treating the people who keep this place running from the top floor to the loading docks. To advise me on mental and physical health practices, crisis response, and the human impact of our policies. There was a flicker of surprise around the table. And you want him in that role? Evelyn said. I do, Claire replied. Marcus studied her. He had not expected her to say it out loud in front of these people. The idea had barely formed in his own mind as more than a vague possibility. That is a significant position, the woman with the calm demeanor said. It would require someone with both clinical experience and an understanding of operations. You are confident he has that? I am, Claire said. Sarah said. She did not list his years in the field, his quick assessment in the restaurant, his steady presence with Noah. She did not need to. All of it was there in the way she said the words. Several board members nodded. It is unconventional, one of them said, but I have seen worse hires do less. Evelyn smiled small and sharp. I like it, she said. A reminder that we are not just numbers in a portfolio. I second the proposal. Hang on, Marcus said. All eyes swung to him again. He cleared his throat. If this is serious, he said, I need to be clear on something. You do not have to say yes, Claire told him. He nodded. I know, he said, and I am not saying yes unless I can do it without becoming the thing I walked away from. He looked at the board. My daughter is 8, he said. She has already buried one parent. My schedule has to allow me to be the father she needs. I will not trade away tucking her in at night for a bigger paycheck or another title. He spread his hands slightly. If I take a position here, it will be on the condition that I can still walk her to school, sometimes still show up when the heater breaks, and our building still be present, he said. And I would expect any policies we build to protect other parents' ability to do the same, top to bottom. This was not the language the board was used to hearing when discussing compensation. It landed differently. The man with the heart medicine looked at his notes again, then up. My grandchildren think I live in my office, he said quietly. I do not like that thought. The woman with the calm demeanor nodded. We have talked for years about work-life balance without ever truly backing it, she said. Perhaps it is time we take it seriously. Evelyn gave a short, decisive nod. I have no objection to reasonable flexibility, especially if the outcome is a healthier workforce and fewer lawsuits, she said. She glanced at Claire. And a CEO who does not faceplant in expensive restaurants, she added dryly. A ripple of subdued laughter moved around the table. Claire's shoulders loosened a fraction. She turned back to Marcus. Those conditions are acceptable to me, she said. He studied her for a long moment, then looked past her to the city beyond the glass. For years he had narrowed his world to the size of one little girl and a handful of buildings. The idea of expanding it again made something in his chest pull tight and then ease. He looked back at her. All right, he said. Then I accept, on one more condition. Her brow furrowed. What is that? She asked. He glanced at the door toward where he knew the family room would be several floors below, where 2 kids were probably pressed to a window, counting cars on the river road. That any changes we make start with them, he said, with what they need, Not just what looks good in a report. Claire held his gaze. Agreed, she said. He nodded once, settling into the reality of what he had just done. Evelyn tapped her pen against her folder. Then it is decided, she said. We keep our CEO, we remove a liability, and we gain an advisor who reminds us that everyone in this building has a heartbeat and a life outside the stock ticker. She closed the folder with a soft thud. For the first time in a while, she added, I am curious to see where this goes. Spring crept into the city in small, stubborn patches. A tree on the corner outside Winter's Global put out cautious buds. The river lost its slab of thin ice and moved more easily under the bridges. People traded heavy coats for lighter ones, still carrying scarves out of habit. Inside the building, the changes were quieter. Meeting rooms that had once been booked straight through lunch now showed empty blocks on the scheduling screen. An internal memo went out about protected hours, written in dry corporate language but with a clear message: eat, rest. You are more useful to us if you can stand up. The family room on 17, once used only when employees had no choice but to bring a child to the office, now held a small shelf of toys, a stack of blankets, a bulletin board covered with crayon drawings. A handwritten sign appeared there, tucked into the corner. If you are breathing, you are worth our time. No one admitted to writing it. The handwriting looked suspiciously like Emma's. Claire's days still filled with numbers and decisions, stock calls, vendor negotiations, legal reviews. The difference was not in the weight of the work, but in the way she moved through it. 4 weeks after the board meeting, she actually startled her assistant by walking into the break room at 11 in the morning and making herself a sandwich. You have a kitchen on your floor, Renee had said, caught between confusion and awe. The bread is better down here, Claire had replied, taking a bite. Renee had blinked, then smiled for real for the first time in a long while. Marcus's office was not on the top floor. It sat on 12, close enough to the engineering and operations teams that he could wander down to see where the actual work happened. The door carried a simple plaque, Marcus Reed, Chief Health and Humanity Officer. He did not sit in it very much. He walked. Through loading bays that smelled of oil and cardboard, through call centers buzzing with low voices and the soft tapping of keys, through conference rooms where mid-level managers tried to parse new guidelines into daily routine. Sometimes he talked about ergonomics and emergency preparedness. Sometimes he talked about how to tell a supervisor you needed a break before your hands started shaking over your keyboard. He listened more than he spoke. He kept a small photo of Emma on his desk, slipped into the corner of a monitor. On days when meetings ran too long, he tapped the frame lightly, as if reminding himself of the line he had drawn. When he left early on Tuesdays to catch Emma's school play rehearsals, people noticed. The first time someone raised a brow. You are leaving, they asked. There is still the vendor call at 5. He had nodded. Reschedule me, he said. I have a prior commitment. Is it urgent? The person had pressed. Yes, he had answered. She has 3 lines and a cardboard crown. The person had laughed, then looked thoughtful. In small ways, the building began to tilt just slightly toward a different kind of normal. One afternoon, months later, Claire found herself standing at the edge of the 17th floor family room. Half the lights were off. A movie played quietly on a screen in the corner, colors sliding over the wall. 2 kids she did not recognize sat on beanbags sharing a bag of popcorn. Near the window, Emma and Noah had built another fort, this one using office chairs and a conference table draped with a plain white sheet. A sign hung from the edge of the sheet in shaky marker letters. No adults allowed except my dad and Noah's mom and people who bring snacks. Claire smiled at that last line. She stepped closer. Inside the fort, the kids had lined up small toys along the sill, a plastic dinosaur, a miniature truck, a paper boat. The city sprawled beyond the glass, unaware of the small kingdom at its edge. You can come in, Emma called, spotting her shadow. You qualify, Noah added. You brought snacks last time. She ducked her head under the sheet. The air inside was warm and close, smelling faintly of crayons and fruit snacks. Noah scooted over to make room. How was the long meeting? He asked. Still long, she said, and slightly less miserable. Emma adjusted a corner of the sheet. That is because Dad keeps saying things like, have you eaten? She said, mimicking Marcus's tone. That does help, Claire admitted. She let herself lean back against the chair leg, her shoulder brushing Noah's. He did not flinch. He handed her a small toy car as if it were the price of admission. You can be in charge of traffic, he said. No crashes. I will do my best, she replied. Later that day, she watched from the balcony of the cafeteria as Marcus stood in front of a cluster of team leaders talking through a new schedule trial. He spoke plainly, no slides, no jargon. "We are not here to coddle anyone," he said. "We are here to stop burning people out so badly that they start making stupid mistakes or quitting in the middle of important projects." One of the managers looked skeptical. "Some of our clients expect us to answer emails at 3 in the morning," he said. Marcus nodded. "Then we build shifts that let someone else answer them at 3 in the morning," he said. "Not the same person who has been on since 8. Your people cannot breathe if you never let them come up for air." Claire watched heads nod around the circle. She felt something loosen inside her, seeing the ideas they had talked about on her terrace take root in rooms like this. It was not a revolution. It was a series of small, deliberate choices. She could live with that. On a Sunday afternoon, with the threat of any meeting pleasantly distant, Claire stood in the kitchen at home with the fridge door open. Noah sat at the island textbook, spread in front of him, pencil tapping a quiet rhythm against the paper. Emma sprawled on a stool next to him, drawing a dragon in the margin of her own notebook. "You are making it breathe fire over my math," Noah said. "That is because math is scary," she replied. "The dragon is protecting you." He considered that. "Okay," he said. Claire pulled out bread, butter, cheese. The familiar movements had grown easier. Her first attempt weeks ago had produced something burnt on one side and barely warm on the other. Noah had eaten it anyway, solemn and pleased. She sliced buttered, heated the pan. The sizzle when the bread met the skillet was a small satisfaction. The doorbell rang. "Noah, can you get that?" she called. He slid off the stool and trotted down the hall. The front door opened, then closed. Voices floated back, growing clearer. "Take off your shoes," Noah said. "Mom does not like mud on the floor." "I have no mud," Marcus replied. "Only a little honest dust." "You say that every time," Emma said. "It is more than a little." They appeared in the kitchen together. Marcus carried a bag with a container peeking out of the top. Something smelled rich and tomato-heavy. "You brought contraband," Claire said. "Leftover sauce," he replied, holding up the bag. "We made too much, again." Emma climbed back onto her stool. "I helped," she announced. "I stirred and tasted and stirred more." "You tasted more than you stirred," Marcus said. "That is called quality control," she replied. Claire flipped the sandwiches. "You are just in time," she said. "We are working on adding one more item to the family menu." Marcus sniffed the air. "You are improving," he said. "The bread is only medium brown." "The last batch was darker," she said. "Practice," he said. "You do not become a grilled cheese expert in one night." They moved around each other, with the easy awareness of people who had shared space more than once. Marcus set his container on the counter, opened a cabinet unprompted to pull down plates. Noah grabbed glasses. Emma poured water with exaggerated care. They ate at the island elbows, nearly touching crumbs scattered again. Afterward, Noah disappeared to his room with Emma to show her a new model kit, voices rising and falling down the hall. Claire and Marcus stepped outside. The sky was clear, in a way it rarely stayed over the city. They had driven to a park by the river, one of the few stretches where the view was mostly water and sky instead of concrete and steel. The air smelled of damp earth and something green waking up. Emma and Noah ran ahead on the paved path, chasing each other in looping arcs. Their laughter bounced off the water, mingling with the faint sounds of traffic from a nearby bridge. Claire walked beside Marcus, hands in the pockets of her coat. "How does it feel?" she asked. "Being back in a role where you are saving things again." He thought about it. "It feels different," he said. "Less bloody, more paperwork." She smiled. "Regrets?" she asked. "Oh, yeah." "Not yet," he answered. "Ask me again after the next quarterly review." She nudged his shoulder lightly. "That is when I usually regret everything," she said. He looked ahead. Emma had stopped near the railing, leaning over to stare at the water. Noah stood beside her, pointing at something only they could see. A boat passed farther out, leaving a small wake that took a long time to reach shore. "They look like they have known each other forever," he said. "They behave like it," she replied. A gust of wind tugged at her hair. She pushed it back behind her ear, then lowered her hand. "I keep expecting someone to tap me on the shoulder and tell me none of this is allowed," she said quietly. He glanced at her. "What part?" he asked. "All of it," she said. "You in my boardroom, your daughter in my kitchen, my son building forts with someone who understands how to make a mess and not apologize for it." Marcus considered that. Who would be in charge of making that rule, he asked. She thought of Victor, of the old messages, of the way some of the board had clung to outdated habits as if they were lifelines. "Not them," she said. "Then maybe it is allowed," he replied. They walked a little farther in comfortable silence. The sun sank lower, turning the river's surface into streaks of gold and shadow. Emma and Noah ran back toward them. Race you to the tree, Emma said, already half launching herself forward. No fair, Noah protested, laughing as he chased her. Claire watched them go, the small thud of their feet softened by the grass. They will sleep tonight, she said. That is the dream, Marcus replied. They stopped near a bend in the path, where the park opened up into a wider clearing. The kids' slowed breath visible in the cooler air, then flopped down on the grass, faces turned up to the sky. Claire and Marcus stood behind them. Without quite thinking about it, she reached out. He did too. Their hands met in the middle fingers, lacing together palms warm and solid. No one was watching them for headlines here. No one was waiting to capture any misstep on a phone. Claire let her shoulders drop. She drew in a slow breath, held it, then let it out. The air tasted faintly of river and cut grass and the last hints of someone's faraway grill. Beside her, Marcus's breathing matched hers in an easy rhythm. Emma rolled over on the grass, propping her chin on her hands. Are we going home after this? She called. Marcus looked down at her. Yes, he said. To whose house? She asked. Ours, he replied. Noah sat up, brushing bits of grass from his sleeves. It is the same now, he said. Right. Claire looked at him. If you want it to be, she said. He nodded with a certainty that made her chest tighten. I do, he said. Emma reached over and clasped his hand. Then it is official, she said. They lay back down, 4 eyes turned to the sky now, too small, too older. On the path, the late sun stretched their shadows long. From where they stood, Claire could see the shapes merge. At a certain angle, it was hard to tell where one ended and another began. 4 outlines overlapping on the ground, dark against the bright strip of pavement. She squeezed Marcus's hand. He squeezed back. The river flowed past, steady and indifferent, carrying the reflections of buildings and bridges and the small shifting figures on its banks. For the first time in a very long time, Claire did not feel like she was standing behind glass watching her life from the wrong side. She was in it, feet on the ground, hand in another hand, 2 children in front of her, laughing at something she could not quite hear and did not need to because the sound of it was enough. Thank you so much for listening to today's story. If this story resonated with you or made you reflect, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to share them in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you won't miss the next story.